Welcome to SoCo Chat, a podcast where we meet with county leaders, share the latest news, and discuss all things concerning our beautiful corner of Northern California known as Sonoma County. Once again, I'm your host, Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, and we thank you for joining us. We have the great honor today as our guest, Sonoma County Supervisor Lynda Hopkins, who represents the 5th District. And if you don't know, the 5th District covers the entire Sonoma County coast, the lower Russian River area, Sebastopol, and other portions of northwest and southwest Santa Rosa. But before we get to Supervisor Hopkins, we want to start with our trivia contest. First, we have 2 winners from our recent SoCo Chat segment on the county fair. If you remember, the question was, in what year was the first Sonoma County fair held? The correct answer was 1936. Our clue was yes, there was an Olympics held in Europe that year, but it was a little more controversial than this year's. It was in Berlin. You can look that up. A lot of great stories from that Olympics. So we had 2 winners this week, both of whom received a family pack of tickets to the fair, compliments of our friends at the fair. This included a parking pass and 5 fair tickets. That's a $60 value. One of our winners was Isaiah from Santa Rosa, who says he goes to the fair every year and was very excited to win the family pack. Our other winner was Arcel Perez, who also lives in Santa Rosa, and says he's one of our regular listeners on Spotify. So congratulations to both of you. And finally, here's our trivia question for this week. And I know it relates to a topic that's near and dear to Supervisor Hopkins, as well as many of you otter lovers out there. The question is this: otters, when resting, will wrap themselves in kelp or other plants and even hold each other's forepaws so they do not float away. Our question is, what are these group of resting otters called? What is a group of resting otters called? If you know, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Once again, that's publicaffairs, one word, at sonoma-county.org. And if you're correct, you'll be entered into a weekly drawing for a chance to win one of our SoCo Chat coffee mugs. And with that, let's get on with our guest and our discussion with Supervisor Hopkins. Thank you so much for being here.
So great to be here.
Yeah. Well, how's your summer going?
Beautiful. I mean, honestly, what I ask out of summer is no fires in Sonoma County, just like what I ask out of winter is no floods. Again, knock on wood. And so honestly, any season where you can just enjoy the beauty that we have. I was at the Gravenstein Apple Fair over the weekend,
that was so much fun.
and so we just have so much produce. The farmers markets are bustling. I love this time of year.
Gravenstein Apple Fair has a near and dear to my heart. That's where I announced to my family we gathered there that my wife and I were getting married. That was 32 years ago.
That's wonderful. Yeah, this is the fair's 51st year.
Yeah,
so it's been around for quite some time.
Well, that's a great event. Now, we need to have a goat report. Would you mind giving us a goat update?
Yes. So I had triplet baby goats born a couple of months ago. And first-time mama has been an amazing mama. She just takes such good care of her babies. And what really struck me was her son is huge. And I feel like she's only a couple months old and about half the size of his mother. So she is definitely making quite a bit of milk, and he is enjoying quite a bit of milk. They grow up so fast. That's what it's like I've got human kids as well as goat kids.
Right.
And luckily, the human kids grow up a little slower than the goat kids, but not that much slower, man. Time flies.
Well, it's great to see them grow up together. I'm sure they're enjoying the goats.
They love the baby goat snuggles. Nothing like newborn goat in your lap, just snuggled down with those long Nubian ears that are almost like basset hound ears, and they're so soft, and they love it.
There's a lot of photo opportunities, I imagine.
Definitely.
Well, that's great. Well, listen, we appreciate you being here. In particular, we want to mention how the 5th District, in terms of sheer size, is the largest district in the county, and it incorporates the entire coast, rural unincorporated areas, and suburban areas of Santa Rosa, some of the west side. Can you speak to some of the opportunities and challenges you face in representing such a vast district?
The vastness is humbling. And actually, every time I sort of drive the length of the district, up to the Sea Ranch, up the whole coastline, go through the North Coast, I am just humbled. And I also feel so blessed to represent a district that is so stunningly beautiful. I mean, we have so many different ecosystems, right? From the redwoods to the coastal prairies to, actually stewarding like the Bodega Bay Harbor and the eelgrass and the seagrass that's growing there, working with our partners on things like kelp restoration. It is stunningly beautiful, but almost as beautiful as all of the phenomenal ecosystems and beautiful mountains you can hike and beaches you can walk down and river that you can float down are the people.
Yeah.
I love having so many unique
Oh,
communities
it's
that all have their distinct identity. Like, do
right.
not confuse, Villa Grande with Monte Rio, even though they're
Right.
right next door, or Rio Neato with Guerneville. These are very unique identities and
With
so much
their own
community
histories.
pride.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's well. The other challenge is that you do have a lot of fire risk. We know that with the Walbridge fire and whatnot. But you also have a big demand because it is such a lovely area. You have a lot of visitors come in for the river and the coast, and that presents a lot of challenges for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like we are really sort of the canary in the coal mine for a lot of climate resilience challenges,
Right.
right? And that we have not only the wildfire risk, but also the sea level rise
Hmm.
risk, which actually puts some really critical infrastructure, including wastewater infrastructure, include critical arterial roads, right, at risk.
Yeah.
We've seen severe erosion at Gleason Beach, which is kind of, I think, also one of
Right.
those, heralding and presaging of things to come. And then, of course, we had the flooding in the lower Russian River.
Right.
And yet it's almost, the danger coexists with the beauty. And so we see so many folks come out, especially in the summer. We've really had unprecedented visitorship really since the pandemic. It's been growing year over year. We
Yeah.
get a lot of visitors in from the greater Sacramento area
Hmm.
who come here just to sort of seek relief from the heat that
From the
they
heat there.
experience
Yeah.
in the summer. Tragically, it has led to some fatalities. When we have these weekends where there are so many folks in the river, and
Yeah.
so we're also really focusing on water safety and drowning prevention.
Yeah.
It's nonstop in the summer, trying to both welcome the tourists who are the lifeblood of our economy and keep our small businesses afloat. I mean, small businesses really have to make their money
Yeah.
over the summer to survive year round, right?
Right.
But we also are at risk a little bit of being loved to death.
Right.
There are times when it's like the river is literally wall to wall floaties, and
Right.
the impact on turbidity, bacterial counts, all kinds of things can
Yeah.
be challenging.
It's a two-edged sword, no doubt. With all you can love it to death, as you were saying. Well, given the unique challenges and the vastness of your district, both you and Supervisor Gorin, who represents the Sonoma Valley, you both have been advocates for bringing services out to residents of your area and not making them drive all the way to Santa Rosa for those services. And in fact, both of you succeeded in opening regional service centers in your districts this past year. How's that going? And is there more you still want to do there?
It's going really well, and absolutely there is more that we still want to do. So recently we hosted a cafecitos gathering,
Mm.
a community art gathering. But we really want this, regional service center, which is located, everyone calls it the B of A building in Guerneville.
Everybody
We really
knows
would
the B of
love
A
to
building.
rebrand it, but it is the Bank of America building. That's how everyone knows it, to really become a community hub.
Yeah.
We want to bring service providers from the county and also nonprofits to be a place where folks then don't have to drive to the 101 corridor, where they can access those services in their hometown, close by, in a friendly environment. But beyond even the service provision, like, we want to see people see this as their space,
Right.
And so we had actually a Mochelada event where we gave away backpacks.
Yeah.
And so we really want the community to take ownership, because this is a publicly owned building, right? So it belongs to the taxpayers, and we want folks to feel that sense of pride and ownership. I will say that it can be challenging, and I've talked a lot to Susan Gorin about this, is that, a majority of the Board of Supervisors, the actual members themselves, live inside city limits,
Mhm.
and a majority of the Board of Supervisors live on the 101 corridor.
Right.
And so, I'm in a minority, right,
Mhm.
being an unincorporated resident off the 101 corridor. And so I'm always trying to bring awareness to those challenges that rural residents face, because we have nowhere else to go. I don't
Right.
have a city council because I don't live inside city limits,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So the supervisor is kind of my only avenue, right, to petition to have changes made. And so I think a lot of folks just feel frustrated that
Yeah.
it's like, I will fight for them, but I'm only one vote of 5, right? And so there's a little bit of a power imbalance when
Mhm.
it comes to rural voices. And that's what I've really tried to fight, and tried to, through creating things like municipal advisory councils,
Right.
trying to empower communities, and then also trying to draw services out away from the cities and the 101 corridor to meet folks where they are.
Right. And as you say, I mean, some of these rural areas, Santa Rosa is not on the way for them in their daily activities, right? They really have to make special trips to come here. Whereas those along the 101 corridor, it's a lot easier to stop by. So
Yeah.
you've been a strong advocate for that.
Yeah,
So
and think about the folks like up at, Timber Cove,
right.
Annapolis, the
Oh,
Sea
Sea
Ranch.
Ranch.
I mean,
Yeah.
it can be 2 hours, literally a 2 hour drive
Right.
to get to Santa Rosa. We've had a number of closures that make, Highway 1 really slow because it's one-way traffic only and you have to wait at lights. And it's very challenging to access, especially in winter, right? Then we have trees falling and challenging weather. So we've got some very remote pockets of the county who
Yeah.
struggle to access services.
Yeah, well, that's going to be an ongoing discussion. Now, you also mentioned uh, some of the impacts of climate change, and over the years, you've been a strong advocate for the county's climate initiatives. In fact, just now, you're coming from a board meeting where you got an update on the county's efforts to meet our goal of being carbon neutral by 2030 and other climate goals overall. Are you encouraged by what you're hearing in terms of how we're progressing?
I am very encouraged. I think that Sonoma County is really a leader in the space. And
Yeah.
and I think that we've been a leader not just because we desire to, but honestly, we've also been forced to confront the reality of climate
Hmm.
change, right? Which is, more frequent and intense wildfire seasons, more frequent and intense droughts. At the same time, also more frequent and intense flooding. And so,
Hmm.
since we are on the front lines, not only, in my opinion, is it our moral obligation and responsibility to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as quickly and as, thoroughly as we possibly can, but we also in real time have been forced to adapt to a
Hmm.
changing climate.
Yeah.
And so we've done a lot, but there's still so much to be done.
Right.
And when you read the stories about, the tipping points that we are on the cusp of hitting or possibly have already hit when it
Mhm.
comes to things like our marine ecosystems, we've also experienced pretty severe climate impacts to our kelp forests. And so it's sometimes you can feel overwhelmed by the grim news, but what inspires me each and every day is the work that I get to do to try to fix that.
Well, that work for you is not just at the policy level. You can will roll up your sleeves and get out there and get involved. I just want to point out that last month you joined the Riverkeeper Clean team in cleaning up a portion of the Russian River. In fact, from what I hear, you all remove more than 650, you and the group, 650 pounds of trash from the river. What inspires you to get involved in that way?
I actually have been doing this for, I guess, going on 9 years
Hmm.
now. And I was inspired because it's a very tangible thing that you can accomplish. And
Hmm.
because the volunteerism and the community leadership is so just deeply
So strong.
inspiring and
Yeah.
heartwarming. And so I remember back when I was first sort of thinking about running for office, meeting a bunch of folks. I believe it was absolutely pouring down rain. So everything weighed a ton. We're hauling debris out of a homeless encampment, along the banks of the Russian River. And the elements of humanity that I
Hmm.
saw in that moment are still things that inspire me. And I am still friends with the folks that I met on that, first trip to go clean up some of the homeless encampments on the lower Russian River. We just have such good people. And as
Yeah.
much as, sometimes you can get bogged down with whether it's toxicity online or negativity, I look around and I just see beauty. I see people who want to make the world a better place. And so
Hmm.
I never want to be too far away from that. And I think, also in these positions, right, you tend to kind of fly at like 20,000 feet and you're making these big, weighty decisions. But if you lose that connectivity
Right.
to real people and real action,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you have lost your vision and your moral compass. And so
Yeah.
I never want to not be that person picking up trash on the side of the road. That's
Well,
what
that
I'm gonna
seems
say.
that's always a part of the ethos of the Fifth District. I mean, that's just
Do
part
it
of the
yourself,
community.
We have people who patch their own potholes, like no joke. And I remember one of our MAC members just being like, "Well, if the county's not doing it, like you just go buy
Just go-
a cold patch and you
Here's
throw
how
it
you
in,"
do it.
right? I mean, that we're just kind of duct tape and baling twine people, and we will
Mhm.
always help a neighbor out. And that's just, I think, part of living in a rural community. Because at the end of the day, you can be very easily,
Right.
sort of separated, right, cut off,
Yeah.
whether that's from a downed tree or a failed bridge or a culvert. And so it's really you and
You
your
have to be ready.
neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, one other specific area that you've been focused on is has to do with sea otters. Last year, you hosted a summit on the potential reintroduction of sea otters on the North Coast, and that summit got a lot of attention in the media and elsewhere. And How do you hope to maintain the momentum on that issue? And do you think it's possible to see otters reintroduced anytime soon?
I do think that it's possible to see the reintroduction of sea otters. It's a process, so it's definitely going to take a number of years. But we've heard from all of the federal officials that it's really critical to have that local support.
Yeah.
And we have local support not only from the county. Now, sea otter reintroduction is actually formally part of our local coastal plan that should be adopted by the Coastal Commission this November.
Hmm.
We also have critical tribal support
Tribal, yeah.
from Chairman Saris and Chairman Franklin,
Hmm.
respectively, of Great and Rancheria and Kashaya. And so that kind of unity and that kind of partnership and that kind of positivity, I think that folks at the federal level are very excited to have local partners who are
Hmm.
enthusiastic about this effort. I understand that there's actually going to be something on PBS coming out that will
Yeah.
contain some segments. And then
Portions of the summit, it's going to be coming up. Yeah, we'll be sure to let our listeners know when that's specific. We know
Yeah.
specifically.
I'm really excited about that. And then I'm also excited that actually the day after Labor Day, so the Tuesday after Labor Day, we are actually going to have a sort of Sea Otter Day out at Doran Beach. From 11 to 12, we'll actually have a sandcastle building and judging contest. And then there will be folks from Sea Otter Savvy and the Marine Mammal Center, actually out of Marin, there to educate folks on the history of sea otters and what that could mean. But, sea otters are a keystone species. And so if we want to protect our kelp forests, their role in the ecosystem is absolutely critical. They help suppress the urchin population. The urchin population is so detrimental
Yeah.
to kelp. They can just completely denude a kelp forest with, overpopulation. And so that's one of the real reasons, driving forces to try to bring sea otters back.
Well, for our listeners, I just want to remind them what you said. So the Sea Otter event at Doran Beach
Yep.
is on Tuesday after Labor Day,
Yes.
and it's from 11 to 2, correct?
Yeah, yep. And then 11 to noon, I think, is the part where there's going to be like a sandcastle building contest, which will be fun.
Well,
Yeah.
that'll be really fun, and we'll be putting out information about that very soon. That's certainly very exciting, and we want to see sea otters out there. That would be fantastic. Are there any big changes or other exciting things going on in District 5 you want to tell our listeners about?
What's exciting, again, going back to one of the things that I just absolutely love about West County is the community. And I felt
Mhm.
like, during the pandemic, we were all forced into isolation. And so
Right.
some of those wonderful community events that obviously couldn't occur. You didn't have, the quilt raffles and the pancake breakfasts and the
Right.
crab feeds and the polenta feeds and all of those things where you would often see your neighbors and come together at a
Right.
local school or a firehouse. And I feel like after the pandemic, now there's this sudden surge in desire to come together
Be
as
together.
a community, which
Absolutely.
is awesome. And so
Yeah.
we're working with like 4 different local small towns to try to create community public space in the downtown. So Guerneville's working on not only a possible downtown park, but also re-envisioning the Guerneville Plaza.
Mhm.
Occidental's working on a downtown park. Forestville's working on the skate spot. And then Grayton is working on a community plaza. And so I'm
Mhm.
so excited to work with them. We just helped them and worked to get a bunch of grant applications submitted
Mhm.
to the Ag and Open Space District to try to fund this. And so
Mhm.
my hope is that we will see some awesome new local parks that are just community driven, community led. For the Guerneville Park, I went to a 5th grade class at Guerneville Elementary School, and they had actually had different groups that designed the park and
Oh, that's
presented me with their
fantastic.
designs. It was awesome. They had worked
I'd love
directly
to
with
see
the
those.
architects.
Yeah.
They kind of had to prioritize, okay, is there space for the soccer field? Everyone wanted a soccer field.
Of course.
Everyone wanted an environmental playground, but it was really cool to hear what the children's vision,
Yeah.
is. And that is our future. Those are
Yeah.
our future leaders. So let them design the
Yeah,
parks, right?
I love it. I love it. And you know who really benefits most from those community getting back together in community are our children and
Yeah.
our young adults who missed 4 years of their lives. In some cases, are having a hard time getting back into gear. We see it in schools and or we're not. There's not as much involvement, and letting them know that that is such a key part of our lives.
I totally agree. And I think that it also really fosters civil discourse. 'Cause
Absolutely.
it's much easier to be mean at someone on the internet
Boy,
or to
especially
share
this year.
misinformation or,
Yeah.
get lost in sort of the like tribal electoral politics, right? And it's like, hey, this is your neighbor. And
Yeah.
even if you disagree, like he's a good guy,
Right.
And
You're
so
still neighbors.
you're right. And
Yeah.
I think that sense of, hey, good people can disagree. Let's have a civil conversation about our disagreements and let's find a way forward is something that community space really fosters.
Well, if residents in your district have a concern or question or want to get involved in this way, what's the best way to connect with you and your staff?
Send an email to District 5, and that's the number 5, not spelled out, at
Hmm.
sonoma-county.org.
Hmm.
And we love to hear from folks. We also love to meet with people. We're going to be having office hours out at our Guerneville building. So if Guerneville's closer, we won't make you drive into Santa Rosa. I also am happy to meet at any coffee shop anywhere around West County. Love getting together with residents and working with them on positive common goals.
That's fantastic. And once again, that email address is District 5, the number 5, at sonoma-county.org. And your staff has a great reputation of getting back to people right away. So
We have an
they will.
amazing team. And I
Yeah.
actually want to give a shout out to Tracy Lyons, who
Yes.
organized the whole Sea Otter Summit. She's
Yeah.
been a champion for change. Lupe Catalan, Debbie Ramirez, and it's just, and Che Kazul and Jason
Yeah.
Wilson. We have phenomenal human beings.
You
And
do have
it's
a
a
good
team
staff.
effort
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, with everything that you're doing, what keeps you going? What do you like most about your job?
I'm going to go back to the same answer, which is the community.
Yeah.
We have so many tireless volunteers, and I feel so lucky and privileged to be paid full time to do this as my job, right? And yet we have folks who, in some instances, are below the poverty line, and they are dressing up as drag queen nuns, to run Sister Bingo, to raise money for other nonprofits. We have so many people who give so deeply of themselves. And so that's what makes me wake up and be like, okay, I've got to wake up earlier. I've got to, stay up later to do more, because I want to make sure that I'm working harder
Absolutely.
than them. And it's hard. I mean, here's an example. So I think of Lucy and Vesta in Forestville, who are just tireless community volunteers. And Lucy, for her 80th birthday, is having a fundraiser to benefit the town of Forestville, right? Pie in the park, And so both women will be in their 80s and are just like, they're just almost the mayors of
That's who
Forestville,
they are.
And they just are at every event. They're always trying to support the community, always trying to help organize town halls and make the world a better place. And just folks like that, man,
It gives you hope.
I want to be Lucy and Vesta when I am in my 80s for sure.
I have no doubt you will be. But that's a wonderful story. Well, there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but we need to wind it up. But I'm going to end with this question I always ask: whether it's a hiking trail or a restaurant or maybe a spot at your home, where is a go-to place that you like to go to in Sonoma County, especially when you kind of want to get away?
So I'm going to cheat and say 2. I have 2 favorite trips that I love to take with my kids. One is the Occidental to Grove of Old Trees trip. And so we will often stop for breakfast at Howard Station Cafe, get some of their amazing, breakfast smoothies. The Altamont in Occidental is also an awesome place for some food and a cup of coffee. And then from there, we'll head up to the Grove of Old Trees and go on that beautiful walk through the redwoods. And the other is Wildflower to Bodega Bay, which is you take Bodega Highway out, you stop at Wildflower Bakery, which has hands down, I mean, there's so many wonderful bakeries in West County, but it is my personal favorite. Their fougasse with the cheese, and it is so delicious, and you'll get it and it'll still be warm, fresh out of the oven. Sticky buns, also amazing, although there may be like a half a stick of butter per bun. I don't know. It's delicious. It's so good. And then you go out to the coast and you got your picnic lunch just from the delicious bread from Wildflower, and you go for a walk on the beach if you time it for low tide. My kids love to pick up seashells. And so, yeah, those are a couple of my favorite trips to take
Well,
with
that sounds
family.
like fantastic tips for a West Coast weekend. So thank you very much for sharing that. Well, Lynda, thank you so much for being with us. As a thank you for being our guest. What we do, I believe you already have a mug, but we're going to give you one of our recyclable water bottles, because I heard you mention today you wanted to see more recyclable bottles around the county and not plastic ones. So here's one for you to take with you. And we want to give our listeners a chance to win one of our SoCo Chat mugs or one of our bottles. We'll give you a choice by answering today's trivia question. Once again, our question this week is, what is a group of resting otters called? If you know, call us at 565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. And if you submit your answer to today, we'll be entered into our weekly drawing for a chance to win give you a choice of one of our bottles or our mugs. And also just want to remind you that if you have questions or input or for Supervisor Hopkins and her team, remember her email address is District 5, that's the number 5, @sonoma-county.org. Please reach out to them. And if you have comments about this or any other segment or have suggestions for a topic for a future SoCo Chat discussion, please email us at our address at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. We thank you all and hope you'll continue to follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and of course, YouTube. We'll see you all next time. Thank you, Lynda, for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.